All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's Jay again. And man, oh man, has it been a hot year this year. Wow, it is towards the end of July here, and man, it's been a roaster. It has been hot this year. Um, the UV has been really high this year, and it's really cooked a lot of plants, and a lot of people have been struggling with their food forests a little bit this year. But as to be expected, they do need a little bit of shade up, which is why we're going to talk about this tree here. So this is a really unique tree and a really neat tree that I think everybody here should have in the valley because it's actually very easy to grow. It grows extremely fast, and it's a very low water use plant. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the Moringa. The Moringa tree, or the miracle tree. Not to be confused with the miracle fruit tree, although I suppose you could probably eat the miracle fruit tree and then eat the miracle tree and it wouldn't be quite as bitter. But I'll tell you, this is more of a medicinal plant, so everything can be eaten on this tree. This is an extremely nutritious tree. You can eat the leaves, you can eat the pods, you can eat the flowers. It's like I said, it's very easy to grow these. We grow these from seed. And as a matter of fact, this is one of the very first plants that I put here on this property. Now, it wasn't this exact one that you're seeing here, this exact moringa, because I've kind of planted a whole bunch over time and selected down to my favorite one, because just like anything else, you're going to have good moringas and you're going to have bad moringas, and you're going to have big pods and you're going to have little pods, and you're going to have long pods, fat pods on some of them, no pods on some of them, small leaves on some of them, large leaves on some of them. Some are a little sweeter, some are a little bit more bitter. If you irrigate them a little bit more, they're going to be a little bit less bitter when you do eat the leaves. But like I said, this is a nutritional plant. You can dry the leaves and grind them into powder, and then you've got moringa powder that you can add to, say, a smoothie, or a favorite dish that you're making, and you can get all your vitamins in on this tree. So like I said, I started with this tree, and I actually planted one of these from a seed in the front yard, and it was before people had even heard of them here. So it was before the popularity of this tree in Arizona came around. So I had one of these growing a long time ago, so I kind of was familiar with the tree before I planted more of these. But what I ended up doing was I ended up planting about 20 of these over the property, and then I just eventually ended up cutting them down as they were no longer needed for their shade, or if I didn't like that particular tree for some reason. So I've got them all selected down to one. I've got one moringa tree here left, and this is the one that I use for propagation because this is my favorite tree. So this has the biggest leaf. This is the one from the Jake Mace video where he eats the giant leaves, and it's sweet. This one's not quite as bitter as the rest of the moringa leaves. And then this one produces a gazillion pods, like every year, even when you cut it back, which you'll be doing every winter. You'll be cutting this tree back. But let me see if I can get sort of the spread, and you can kind of see that it's filtered sunlight, which is really nice. And right now, it's got all of its pods on it. So they're going to look pretty sparse, and they're going to look a little shoddy right now. And most people are going to see them right now and think, well, that's not a very good shade tree because it doesn't have very many leaves right now. But that's because it's concentrating on all these seed pods. So once it gets rid of all the seed pods, just like every other tree that's a legume, once all these pods drop, then it will start to flush and grow again up there at the top. So it goes through these little cycles where it blooms, it flushes, it blooms, it puts on the pods. It looks kind of shoddy as it's developing the pods. The pods will develop and fall off because all the energy is being put into the fruit, which are those pods basically. Then once those pods fall off, then that will fill back in again. And you can grow these like a tree, or you can grow them like a giant bush. I mean, I've seen them in both both configurations, and they both look really killer. And the bees are super attracted to the blooms on these. So if you've got one of these in your yard, you're gonna have a lot of pollinators that are in your yard also. But man, yeah, these pods are just beautiful, and they look really cool out here, especially at night, because they look like a bunch of daggers hanging down. Let me see if I can get over here by this group here. You can see how big they are. Nice, thick. Thick pods, super thick pods, and big. So like I said, this one has been selected down. So this is the one that I'm going to propagate again this year and make a bunch of seedling starts so that other people can have these in the valley. So how big are the pods? Well, I got one down here. And let's measure them up and see how big they actually are. Starting down here at 1. "30 inches. That's a big pod. That is a big pod. It's probably one of the longest ones that I've ever seen. So now inside of these, if I leave this on there a little bit longer, not too much longer than this, because I thought I saw this one starting to crack open. So there it is right there. So you can see this one starting to split right there. So what happens is, out here in the air, this will dry up, and then this will crack on those 3 sides. Let's see if I can split this one open. One hand, here we go. And then inside you see these nice, giant, big, healthy seeds. Wow, those are really, really nice. So do you see the color? The color and the consistency and the size of that seed? So that's going to be a good tree. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably go through all these, and I will further select the largest seeds from in here. And then I will propagate and grow these seeds. Wow, that's a pretty seed. You see it's got these wings around the side. These wings are kind of made out of like a paper material, right? So that they'll float. So if these fall in water, kind of at this stage, they kind of float around all over the place. I guess if you have flood irrigation, I'm not sure how well that would work out, but yeah, they're not invasive at all whatsoever, and I guess it would be kind of awesome if they were. So now inside here, you've got this little the brown part there, which is the seed, and then as that gets roughed up over time, then it'll germinate once it's in the ground. And these usually germinate well when they're just not completely buried, when they kind of like fall on the ground. Let's say they fall on the ground and then you step on them, like it almost plants them like perfect, sort of like that. But then they have to be kept moist, obviously, and then this will germinate, and you'll see a little top cracking out, or a little stem cracking out of the middle of this seed, and just start to kind of grow up. So I don't really bury these when I plant these, but I just kind of tap them in the ground there flat, like an animal would if it were to step on, you know, a seed and plant it out in nature. And then of course you've got this paper material here, which kind of wicks all the water and brings all the water to the actual seed to get the seed germinated, so you've got a new plant. And since these love the heat, these will germinate actively right now and next month, and you've got a little bit of humidity here in Arizona to kind of help along the germination process there. But yeah, I'm going to collect all these beans. This is, like I said, this is a tree that I really like to use as propagation, because every tree that I've gotten off this tree in the last, man, how long has this one been planted? I think this one's 5, because my first one was 8 years ago, or 9 years ago. So I think this one, is right around 5. But I cut it down every year. I religiously harvest this this tree because it regrows every year. I mean, you can see, I'm going to kind of follow it down here. You can see how tall it is up there. Like fills in that gap of the food forest. And then we'll come down here. And you'll see where I cut it last year. I mean, it's kind of interesting because you'll cut these off at a more or less a stump. And then the new, I mean, you can really kind of butcher this tree, like we do. So this was cut, this was cut, this was cut. It put on a new shoot here, and it put on the new shoot here. So the new side shoot developed as its own branch, which goes way up there. And then the main branch, or the main trunk, you can see that the growth that came off the very top of this branch, this one was lower, this one that came off the top, it was very much near the top. And so what it did was, as it's growing, it migrates over. Even though this is flat and it's coming off the side here, it's going to eventually grow and swallow that stump again. So it's going to migrate. So the shoot that comes out the side moves up over the trunk again, and then it covers all this, and it makes a new trunk again, like almost to the point where you never knew that you cut the tree down, because it just fixes itself and completely swallows up that cut every year. And like I said, you can be pretty abusive with these trees as far as cutting them back, because a little bit of the top freezes every year here in Arizona. It's a little bit cold sensitive tree, but not when they're bigger. So if you just leave them like this and you don't cut them back every year, then they won't necessarily freeze. Maybe a little bit up at the top. But this is, like I said, this is supposed to be a harvestable plant. Like, you're supposed to use it, and you're supposed to cut it back every year, and you're supposed to let it regrow, and it'll flush with all new growth again, and all new branches and seed pods and flowers, and it will fill in by the time the heat comes again. So if you cut these back after the winter time, they're going to regrow for you again by the time it's May, because this tree will grow about 22 feet a year. This is one of the fastest growing trees that we have here in Arizona. Now, it's not going to grow that fast if you don't take care of it. That's under kind of optimal conditions where, you know, we kind of water them and feed them like we would a fruit tree. But this is a miracle tree, and it's a miracle that it lives in Arizona, or that anything lives in Arizona. So I would say that it's kind of a miracle that we found this tree, and more people should be growing this one, especially as nutritious as this plant is. If you only had one tree in the yard, I think I would probably pick this one. I mean, it's not my favorite fruit per se, because I like the sweet stuff, you know, and this is a little bit on the bitter side, but as far as like nutrition goes, yeah, it would be this one, because nothing else is going to give you that kind of nutrition, that kind of vitamins, you know, and that kind of protein. This is just a very, very great tree to have. So, definitely try growing some of these on your own. They're fun. They're fun to do. You'll probably have a little bit of a failure rate at first, but they're fun to grow. And if for some reason you can't get one to grow, then come by and see me, because I can either help you get one to grow, or I'll have some available for people here that want them a little bit bigger, or want to get them at least as a start instead of a seed. I try to make like little seedlings available on these guys that are about, you know, 6 inches tall. Of course, they grow really, really fast. And then I usually have some these available that are about 6 feet tall. So if somebody wants a little bit of a faster tree or a little bit more instant gratification, or they can't get theirs to grow, or they want this variety, this one that I've selected here as my favorite, after planting, I don't know, probably well over 100 of these in the valley. This is my favorite one. So if you want this particular one, just know they're like anything else, and not all fruit is created equal. There's just some that are better than others. But yeah, guys, it's July. Looking pretty great around here, considering the fact that it's July. I mean, all the plants look really good. The mangoes look really good, nice and healthy. And I'm getting a surprising amount of fruit out of some of these fruit trees, like these longans. These dragon eye fruit, I didn't expect to get quite so many fruits on some of these trees. I mean, they're just loaded. Look at those longans. Absolutely beautiful out here. So, even though it's hot, things are still producing. But I'll tell you for a fact that this longan, look at that, guys, that's so neat. So neat to see these in Arizona, in the Phoenix backyard. Look at that. But I wouldn't have something like this, I'm telling you, if I hadn't had something like that to begin with. Because, as a matter of fact, before the mulberry filled in that section, that moringa is what protected this longan from the afternoon shade. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Look at those longans. But I'm telling you guys, I wouldn't have half the stuff that I have if it weren't for a couple of plants. And one of those plants is the moringa, and another one of those plants is the castor beans. Because those are awesome microclimate creators. Perfect amount of sun, filtered sunlight like you can see it. It doesn't completely blot out the sun like the mulberries do. The mulberries underneath here, it's just dark. There's almost no sunlight that comes in back here, and that's okay for some plants. Obviously, that's why I've got some of these back here under the mulberry. But if you want some nice spotted light and you want a fast, easy growing tree, or you don't like to water very much, this is the tree for you, guys. So check it out. Check out the moringa tree. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I will try to answer them. And please subscribe if you guys want some more videos put out. I don't charge anything for these, but I kind of watch the likes and the subscribers, and if not much is going on, I don't do too many videos. But if you guys want to see more, then let me know. And if you have any suggestions on stuff you would like, let me know. By the way, guys, it's almost mango season too. So we're gonna be doing some mango videos. All right, guys. Thank you for watching.